We'll get that. I don't really need that, but, you know, in case anybody else does. We are going to have a wonderful, and I just know, inspiring evening tonight that I've been looking forward to for a long time. But before we get started on that, I do wanted to just make a few announcements on some of the other things coming up in the future, just to get that out of the way. Of integrity, honor, strength, and pride. Most of all, pride. I'm very proud to be Marines. Anytime you meet one, you'll know. And in my humble opinion, the cream of the crop. And we are very lucky today to have, out of the few and the proud, probably the fewer, and maybe even the prouder, of the Marines tonight. Just as the USCT troops, the United States Colored Troops that are buried in our own Marietta National Cemetery, just as they broke through racial barriers, military barriers, so too did these Marines. And we have such a rich military history here in Marietta and in Georgia, and I can't believe it's taken us this long to hear this story and to welcome you all here. But I'd like to do so tonight, and please help me to welcome Fred Morton of the Montford Point Marines, and he'll get our program started.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having us. On behalf of the Atlanta Chapter 5 Montford Point Marines, we are honored that you would join us in honoring our heroes. Thank you very much again for having us come out. It's just amazing that they're here in our presence, and we get to just talk to them and see how it was, and we really, really honor them. We have also with us tonight our Southeast Regional Vice President, Mrs. Linda Sykes is here. She will come up and give a few words also, but thank you again for having us to come over and to share in honoring our national heroes. Thank you.
Good evening. As Fred said, my name is Linda Sykes. I'm the Southeast Regional National President for the Montford Point Marine Association, but I'm also a Marine. I served 20 years in the Marine Corps, retired, made the area of my home. I've been living here 18 years now. And kids graduated high school here and went on to college at Kennesaw State.
Down in South Carolina, we had a little session, and it was a Navy captain. In fact, was the first black Navy captain that I ever seen. And I served 26 years with the Marines. And so wonderful to speak to you before the ambassador speaks to you. So the ambassador, he's been speaking to people for years. And very seldom an old master sergeant gets to say 2 or 3 words. But anyway, I'm a native Georgian. I was born in Griffin, Georgia, which is where the crow flies south of here, but be about 70 miles. See, my family was sharecroppers. Everybody know what sharecropping means. The guy that owned the land get all the shares. You do the cropping.
Yeah, that's true.
That's something. So I thought something was better for me. So I pulled that mule up to the end of the field, headed to Macon. That's the only recruit depot was in the state I knew about. Me and another fellow, we went in. They said, take these papers to your father and mother and bring them back on Monday and come back. Well, I did have what I think at that time about 2 years or 3 years of high school. So and I'm awful proud of this medal. Well, this medal to me is a saying, we've mistreated you so badly. We're going to have to do something to apologize. Now, you've got to give a person credit for apologizing. See, you've been done wrong in your life, and somebody better come up and tell you he was sorry. But they didn't tell me they were sorry. They gave me a mouthful, and the mouth reeked a little different. So, and I appreciate it. And thank you.
I made a Kappa, and he took a liking to me immediately, and he said, Britton, he said, I want you to be a gentleman and a scholar. He never asked me what I wanted to be, but he told me what he wanted me to be, and I'm glad he did. Of course, I failed it miserably, but the fact is, he pounded that into me throughout those years. Okay. I want to give you a little history of Montford Point. I know you got some in the video there, but it's not everything, and little nuances that went on that you might want to know about. The first person to arrive at Montford Point, the first enlistee, was a fellow named Howard Perry from North Carolina. And by the time Howard Perry had gone on, and others had, by the time they closed up Montford Point, a total of 19,168 of us had come through. One whose name became quite well known, you may remember hearing of, David Dinkins. You ever hear that name? The former mayor of New York City. Just goes to show some of the guys really made some progress. And anyway, Howard Perry went on to serve in the Marine Corps and eventually to come out. He was, as I said, he was followed by almost 20,000 of us. When we received the medal that Brother Miller spoke of, there were only about 400 or so of us up there to receive it. One man was something like 102 years old. He insisted on being there. And by the way, the gentleman who was the master of ceremonies at the program in which the general spoke and talked about you people and all that kind of stuff, he was the master of ceremonies. He's now 98. He was the second Black Sergeant Major. I talked with him last week. He's living down in Daytona Beach. But in the course of it, we were taught many things that made us different now. It was segregated. And I always have to say, wait a minute, I've got to make sure my mind is clear, because now our officers were white. And initially, all of the drill instructors were white. So, unlike Paris Island, which was all white, it might be said to be segregated. We were mixed. Okay, in due course, they changed, and all of the drill instructors were black. These guys became like brothers to us. I don't know if any of you fellas had brothers, but you know, the worst person to train you for anything is your big brother. Others can be sympathetic to you and all that business, but these guys were tough on us. They taught us that when we stood, we were not to slouch, we were to stand erect. When we spoke, we were supposed to be heard half a block away. And when someone spoke to us, we were supposed to look the person directly in the eyes. I haven't come out of South Carolina, you know, that wasn't the way you did things. Yeah. You kind of took low in those days. But we were taught this. In addition, we were taught to fire a rifle and other kinds of weapons. We were taught to use a bayonet. And we were even taught to use our hands to kill people. Now, down in Paris Island, they were saying, we're going to kill the Japanese. But up there in Jacksonville, North Carolina, it was so hateful, so mean, that we wondered whether we were being trained to kill just Japanese, but to defend ourselves from some of the local people there. For example, and by the way, it turned out that although many of the white Marines had never heard of a black Marine, and by the way, there was something like 11 African Americans in the Revolutionary War. They were personally recruited by the first Commandant of the Marine Corps. But from that point on, we were always excluded until 1942. Okay. In Jacksonville, North Carolina, it was a very hateful place. Okay. Most people don't know it. There's a new book out. But although North Carolina is one of the more progressive states in the Union, it also had more members of the Ku Klux Klan than any other state in the Union. Okay, and one of the things that they were based right there in Jacksonville, they were very tough, so many times our white comrades kind of helped us out.
You see how things change? All you gotta do is stick around, they will change. But I didn't tell y'all my age, see, because I didn't want nobody to get jealous. I seen a lot of people in here about my same age. I was a little older than the ambassador. He's on 87. I'm 88 and pretty close to 89.
Great.
And enjoy. I play golf.